It's Real Fit Radio with B
and J.Lou.
For our returning listeners, welcome back. And if it's your first time listening, welcome.
Welcome back, ladies and gents.
I feel a bit drained.
So this is our check-in for you guys who are new listeners. There's a lot of stuff they kind of been trying to digest. So usually she gives the heads up, now we're going to go into the check-in, blase, but she started with drain. So with that being said, this is the check-in segment right now. How so?
No, just that I was feeling drained. I don't feel like I sound as yay as I normally do. But yeah, that's my check-in. I feel drained. So you can start, you can go ahead and check in too. Normally I would throw it over to you, but I guess I was just letting you know I feel drained. I'm going to push through this because it's something that needs to be done, but I feel a bit drained. That's where I'm at.
Well, in light of everything that's been transpiring the last couple of weeks with the killings and the looting and rioting, things of that nature, took a 2 weeks hiatus, but I think it was a much needed step back from social media as well as just the workspace to try to clear the head or whatnot. But I will say this in terms of people who did what they did and, for as marching and protesting, posting on Instagram and things like that, I just want to acknowledge and tell you guys that no matter what somebody said on social media pertaining to what you should be doing and how you should express yourself in terms of understanding the situation that's been presented to us, just know whatever you did was much appreciated in terms of if you posted, if you made a shirt, if you was out there protesting. Don't let nobody undermine what it is that you felt that you, number one, felt comfortable doing for yourself and showing that you seen or see what's going on. And that's pretty much what I want to say about that in terms of checking in mentally for myself. It's been a bit of a up and down type last couple of weeks, but the way we operate here, we never keep down too much or stay in a low place too much is what I should say. So yeah, well, still being productive as usual, but we can go straight into the topic. I just wanted to acknowledge at least what was going on these past couple of weeks since we stepped away.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Everybody needs to find some kind of way to express themselves with everything that's going on. So today we're talking about not just going through it, but growing through it. That's what I've been thinking about today, yesterday, just how situations, trials, issues, circumstance, just life presents things to you different times, and you just go through it. Or you feel like I'm just going through this to get out of it. I made it. What's next? And then you go through the next thing and the next thing. But the question that comes to mind is if you're gonna go through it, but did you grow through it? Now, there's a teachable moment, a takeaway, and you can learn something from any situation. Sometimes we don't have the mindset because of everything that's going on, or we can't find the time. But I think it's important to reflect on what the takeaway is from something. What can I learn from this? What's the teachable moment here? So that's what I want to talk about today. And that's kind of just the rollout of it. There's some lessons in this with COVID, with the senseless killings. It just seems crazy. Like you're just going through it emotionally, mentally, physically. It's like I'm just trying to endure it. Or you going day to day? But there are definitely some teachable moments and some great gems to take away from this for everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, the best example I can give people more or less is myself. And there have been times where, specifically in the recent times, as well as just in general, where I guess you just find yourself, like you said, going through the motions. So I believe that God always gives us tests to grow our character, grow our spirituality, to get closer to Him. And sometimes when He does that, I'm just not ready for it. And it ain't nothing you can do to stop it. So the best thing you can do is try to figure out what it is you were supposed to obtain from the situation. But being human and in my flesh, more times than not, in those situations that I'm trying to grow through, you just be like, dude, all you want to do is just wake up, like you said, and get through the day. You're not trying to figure out the lesson. You just, sometimes you want to ask why, but then again, it's like, well, why ask why? You're going to go through it again the next day. And then when you figure out whatever it is, or you finally get over that, boom, something else happens. So finding different ways to cope with the growth that you're supposed to have in these situations, whatever they are, because it's a variety of things. It can be marriage for some people, it can be friendships for some people, it can be a job, a plethora of things. And it can be difficult to try to figure out and navigate your way through that matrix sometimes. And you definitely can't lean to your own understanding, because there are times where you just don't really understand it. I don't know if I'm on par with the topic in terms of trying to resonate with the world on how you guys cope with it or whatnot, but those are some of the core things that I think about when obstacles or situations that come my way repetitively, how my mindset is sometimes, because I want it to be as transparent as possible. I don't want you guys to ever think that I'm always on 100. I can just get through anything. Like it's all good. We're not the motivate, pump you up type of people without giving you the realism behind it, is what I'm trying to say. So I hope I navigated my way through that pretty efficiently. If I didn't, I will find our way through it.
Yeah. It's no right or wrong way. I think the key thing that I've been just trying to focus on and would like to just put out there is just find a way to not just go through it, but grow through it. And I'm saying that still because you're going to go through it whether you want to or not. It's going to happen. Stuff is going to happen to you. But the growing part, I believe, is optional, because I think you can still go through the same thing again and again and again if you don't grow or find some lessons or teachable moments in it that may assist you with not having to go through that same thing. Or if you do have to go through it again, it may not be exactly the same way it was when you went through it the first time. You may be better equipped. You may have more information, insight, experience, wisdom, because it was attained when you went through it before, or it happened to you. Just even for right now with the whole COVID-19, and then right after that, the backdoor of it to the killing of George Floyd, and before that, Ahmaud Arbery, and then just the state of the world, the emotional upset and the marching and frustration and just emotions being so high, hurt, anger, it's just everything going on. It's happening, but it's like, what can I take away from it? What is the teachable moment in this? What can I learn from it? And so for myself, I know definitely, and I'm being very intentional with it, I've learned not to be so judgmental, even more so. I know it's easier said than done, because I think we're always prejudging or judging just based on life and what we've been exposed to. And so if it's a reference point we have in our mind, if somebody says, the word dog, we reference whatever our experience has been with the dog and what a dog looks like. And we're already preparing ourselves based on memory or our interaction has been with a dog before. And I would say that even with ethnicity, color, if you say a black person, a white person, there can be, you can prejudge. What I'm learning now, even more so, I know it, but it's just like, I'm just being so intentional. Like, don't judge. That is the takeaway for me, the biggest takeaway with right now, because it's so much judgment going on both ways. Like you said earlier, people are using their platforms, they're marching, they're being heard. And some people are coming out and saying, why did you say that? Or why'd you say it like that? Who told you to say something? Then there are people that are afraid to say something because they don't want somebody, saying you should have said it this way, or that was stupid, or you were so insensitive. And it's just, it's just so much going on. It's like a fear to not do something and a fear to do something. But the takeaway for me for that is to try to kind of meet an individual where they are. There is a teachable moment in that. If somebody says something that's insensitive or offensive, it can be addressed. And then from there, once it's communicated that this was offensive, the person can say that wasn't my intention. And then you can say, well, going forward, A, B, C, you shouldn't do this, or you need to be more sensitive, or saying something like this because let me give you a history lesson here, or whatever, and again, it's just so much stuff going on where in this moment of everything happening and you're feeling it and you're just going through it. That growing for me is not judging, being sensitive where it will be hard to be. I was looking at Pastor Mike Todd last week, and he was talking about being comfortably uncomfortable, and I was just kind of like taking that in. And it's interesting because when it's the majority of everyone's pointing their finger one way, it's easiest to jump over there and kind of point your finger in that same direction. But sometimes you got to kind of put yourself in a different position. Again, with everything going on, people are being attacked for just trying to express themselves in whatever way they can when they say, I understand. No, you could never understand how I feel as a Black person. It's like, okay. They don't understand, but why did you say you understand? I feel your pain. You could never feel my pain. I want to do something. I don't know what to do. Well, you should be doing. What do you mean you don't know what to do? It's so much frustration. But the fact that someone actually puts themselves out there to actually kind of be hit, they're in a very vulnerable position. So that's another thing that I'm taking away from this, to be sensitive and understanding in a place where I may not have been, because I have every right to be, based on everything that's going on, to not want to hear you, to be angry with whomever if I feel like you are part of the problem and not the solution, or you don't say or validate how I feel in that moment, if that makes sense. So that's where my growth is with those two particular things, or specifically the state of the world with everything going on with the marching and stuff. As far as COVID-19, my growing through that is just being optimistic and taking away from that, hey, there's always more than one way to do something, so I grew through that even more so, changing my perspective, stretching the boundaries of my creativity. How can I still get things done in the midst of and not just letting it happen to me? COVID-19 happened. What did I learn from this? Some businesses I was just reading the other day are making more money, this way than they did before, because they had to come up with other ways to, to service their customers. And it was more convenient. I guess it was efficient. It cut down their overhead and so on. So it's like, ooh, that was a teachable moment, and it actually assists them with saving some money and stuff. So, that's where I'm at with it. It's not a whole bunch I can say on it. It's just, the whole thing that I want to impart and empower here, the statement is just, again, just don't just go through it, but grow through it.
Yeah. One of the things I feel that I learned in the past month or 2 months, maybe let's just say max it out to 3 months, is learning to truly try to listen and not be so defensive. Or I heard this before where it's like they said you're listening just enough to come up with a defense to what somebody is saying, or you're not really listening, you just waiting for your chance to talk. And one of the biggest things for me is with everything going on, it allowed me to really sit back and just start listening and paying attention to what people had to say, even in my personal life, what you had to say, and just really taking that stuff in, because that's really how you grow. See, the silver lining in just being quiet and just really truly listening and not having, well, this is what I'm going to say soon as she stopped talking, or this is what I'm going to respond soon as they stop saying they point. The thing is, the answer could be found in what the other person is saying or typing or whatever it is, however you guys are communicating. And I just feel like one of the hugest upsides for me is just really taking a step back and saying, okay, from here on out, we have to give 120% in disagreements and even just business moves of just truly being in a moment and listening when you're not talking. Because especially with what's going on with the protests and things of that nature, I've seen people where they yelling and cussing and all that shit. And it's like, dude, you understand, and that comes from both sides. You do understand that nobody is going to really truly listen to what you say once you start talking to them a certain type of way. Immediately they're waiting for a response, or they're not even trying to hear you, and you guys are going back and forth. So with that being said, the way to communicate has been seriously on my mind, specifically the last few days, on ways to better my communication in terms of making sure, number one, I'm sitting and I'm listening. That's the biggest form of communication. Just shut up, close your mind off to yourself, and open your ears to who is giving the message. And then after that, I do honestly feel like my message is more clear and concise, and the response that I give is more, I like to say, meat and potatoes in it, because I'm really taking in what you're saying, and I can give it back in response of whether I understand something, and I'm telling you back, and we can find a medium to it. The other takeaway is like what you was talking about with everybody in this COVID-19 stuff and moving around, and I know things are starting to open back up, is I did get a eye opener or a silver lining. And number one, like you said, changing perception on what I asked for in terms of being able to move in the way that I want to. Obviously, I said I wanted, man, if I could have more time to do my music and write, or if I could have more time to work out and all that, like if I had more of my day, et cetera, et cetera. And here it is. You can look at it in one lens saying, oh, well, I'm not making the type of money I was making, or whatever the case may be. But you still had an opportunity, whether it was unemployment or however you guys are getting your income. If the wheels on your bus are still moving in terms of you still able to put gas in your car, food on your table, your bill, nothing's cut off, you have the opportunity to really truly figure out what it is you want to do and how you want to operate. Like, the more time you have time to think, if you utilize it correctly, man, you can, like you said, you can come out with some brilliant ideas on how to get through this thing. And hell, who knows, you may not even have to go back to work. Or like you said, with these companies, some of these companies are realizing, hey, yeah, maybe I should keep it like this because the overhead ain't as expensive. So again, what you said, it's all about how you're looking at the situation. Or you're growing through the situation, or you going through it. Because if you're going through it, you can't see none of this stuff I'm talking about. All you see is the rioting. All you see is the looting. You don't see any of the solutions. COVID-19. All you're thinking about is, man, I got to put on this mask everywhere I go, or I can't go nowhere, et cetera, et cetera. But if you really truly look at what's underneath, or the jewels and the gems that you're being given, I think ultimately it's a lot of things that you could elevate from going into the next phase of your life. You're able to establish a mindset and a game plan on how you're going to attack stuff. So those are my two biggest ones. And just recap in summary, one is my communication skills and learning how to listen and be able to respond appropriately. And then the other one is looking for the silver linings in the situations that we are in, and trying to find the way to elevate through the process.
No, I totally agree. And not even agree. I'm just so in this part of it. The growing part is definitely optional. So, you'd want to be intentional and choose to grow through whatever's going on. You'll find something, especially, just with being intentional. You'll find something within the situation, the issue, the trial, the pandemic, whatever it is. I hope you grow through it. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggested topics, you can always reach us at realfitradio@gmail.com. Our podcast drops every Monday. You can catch a snippet of that on our Instagram at realfitradio. If you're not following us, you should be. We are on a couple of platforms right now. Apple Podcasts. Hell, I don't even know all of them.
Spotify. iHeart, Deezer, TuneCore. We elevated our game, y'all. As we said, growing through. Like, we started out with YouTube, the first 9-10 episodes, and now we're out there now. Yeah, broadcast, baby.
Yeah, and we're on YouTube still too.
Yeah, still YouTube, but we just elevated the game a little bit because we understand that everybody is not on YouTube like that. And that was always the end game too, was to be able to be on these different platforms that you guys are more familiar with or prefer to listen to your podcast on. So we just did our part to make sure that it was in those appropriate places for you.
So more platforms. Yeah. As always, we hope that we inspired, impacted, or empowered someone. Until next time.